from the world of Jackass and many more things. Please welcome the amazing Steve. What's up, brother?
Well, it's good to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
No problem, man. And you had a show last night, too,
I did. A Wednesday night show, and it was just a spectacular success. I couldn't even believe it.
How long have you been doing stand-up? Because
For 8 years.
For 8 years, no kidding. I remember reading the story when you kind of said, all right, I'm going to try this out now.
Right. Well, yeah. I first tried it 8 years ago. Somebody invited me to a comedy club to do a crazy stunt, and I showed up. I just couldn't think of anything crazier than me trying stand-up. So
Yeah.
From left field,
yeah, and I just went for it, and I thought, wow, man, that was great. You know, I just made people laugh, and I didn't even, break any bones or shove anything up my butt.
Those are two pluses.
What a treat.
But you said, and you've said many times that it terrified you the most of anything you've ever done.
It was up there for sure.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Because you seem so fearless with other things in your life.
I mean, I guess I just have an overly developed concern for the opinions of others.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, I have irrational fears.
Right.
But and I remember too, like in the beginning when I would like write up a set, and I would, I'd really believe in the material, but if I forgot one little thing in the beginning, it would all come crashing down.
Yeah.
That was like kind of. But now I've really found my home with it.
And comfortable on stage.
Sure. Yeah, I've been headlining now for almost 4 years.
It's great, and I understand that was it Dane Cook that helped you a lot in the beginning?
Right. He helped me out a great deal.
And Dane Cook gets a lot of crap. We've had him in the studio here. He was a blast. If we had an event going on.
Yeah.
There's a guy, and we saw it, man, when the Spectrum was here. That was a big venue.
Sure.
Packed, commanded the audience.
And he goes and rents the place himself.
Does he?
Yeah. So,
wow.
So
he takes it all then.
He's a real businessman, too. I love Dane Cook. And, I mean, he really took me under his wing. I remember... when I really dove in right around the time Jackass 3D came out, and I would go on, and then he would go on, and then we'd sit down, and he'd give me notes. And, he'd tell me different things.
Oh, that's cool that he would take the time to do that.
Yeah, and I don't know what was more encouraging, just the fact that he took the time to do that or the actual sort of nuts and bolts of what he was telling me. But yeah, I really... they put a lot of wind in my sails. And I remember about a year later seeing him and said, hey, yeah, dude, I did stand-up in 15 countries this past year. He said, wow, comedians must hate you.
Well, because you've excelled at it and have toured so much. And I get to ask this question all the time when I was telling people we were having you on last night. We were at an event. What's his show like? What is your show like?
Well, I mean, I would say it's shameless, it's shocking, it's rigorously honest.
Okay,
I've got a penchant for saying things I should not, and and nothing's too personal for me to share.
Yeah,
so when I tell you a story, you damn well know that happened.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I guess it's a reflection of how ridiculous my life has been, and even like the developments in my personal life have been it all comes out. So
well, you know what, from the world that you come with, because we're very good friends with Bam and have been for a long time now. Most of the things that come out of his mouth and guys like you would not believe from ordinary people.
No.
You would just say, this guy was just blatantly lying to me.
Right.
But when you guys tell it, you're like, I can totally see that.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. Well, the abnormal becomes the normal. I literally, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but I literally watched you and Bam pee in a litter box together
at Bam's house.
At Bam's house, and it made perfect sense to me.
Sure,
it was just like one of those deals.
It's wild because your story. But my younger brother is an alcoholic and went through AA and has had a turnaround in his life, and he considers it a rebirth and all that stuff. And he has had this situation that I've read interviews with you where you sort of have it, and someone will say, "I saw it." Oh, really? I like you don't.
Sure.
There are chunks of your life that you can't completely account for. Correct?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote a book. I'm a New York Times bestseller.
Yes, congratulations.
And there were certainly periods where I needed other people to chime in and kind of tell the story for me.
Right.
So, but whatever. I mean, generally my memory is pretty good. Yeah. But why would I remember peeing in a litter box? Like that's where pee's supposed to go.
Just usually cat pee, but
right.
When you did get sober, did you have a hard time? I don't know necessarily know how to word this, but a hard time trying to be yourself. Like, I'm still this crazy guy.
For sure.
Right.
For sure. There was a period of awkwardness, I would say. That's how I would describe it. And fortunately, I just powered right through it. But yeah, I would say like on the third Jackass movie.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've had trouble watching it because I was like, I really hadn't found my voice.
Really? Yeah. So you're trying to prove something a little bit, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was sober, and that doesn't make hurting yourself any easier.
No.
But I also at the same time really was gung ho to do it because I wanted to prove that I hadn't turned into you can say
a pussy. Yeah. And we can verify you didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I wanted to prove I still had all that in me, and it was good. But yeah, now like I'm 6 years in, and
awesome.
I feel genuinely better than ever.
Cool.
Well, I know a lot of times with sobriety too, they I guess the suggestion is that you separate yourself from
sure
that situation and those people and those friends.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what your if your friends played a part in your addiction, but how did you?
But if you're talking about my Jackass buddies, they actually pulled the intervention.
You had Knoxville. Was it Knoxville?
Yeah, you have a serious problem when your interventionist is Johnny Knoxville.
When he's worried about you.
Right. That's worried, but he was like my interventionist.
So he and then the other guys too saved your life.
Right. Absolutely. They showed up, and it wasn't an intervention of the will you accept help variety. They were telling me that they were taking me to a psychiatric ward.
Was it a 5150?
That's exactly what it was.
Okay, so you get in, and then they assess you, and they upgraded it. What is it, a 5250?
That's exactly right. Yeah, they 5150 is a 72-hour psychiatric hold, so that's 3 days. But I was so belligerent, showing up, spitting on people, and just being a real handful that they changed me to 5250. Which is 2 weeks.
It's as I read your story, and the documentary about you, it's great because it also it has helped me, and I want to thank you, to understand the plight of my younger brother more.
Well,
to understand, man. Because it's something to be proud of, and you always deal with it. But
proud, I'd say grateful.
Grateful, okay, probably a better way to phrase it. But it's the kind of thing where there is, if people say, well, Steve-O did it.
Sure.
Then you can do it.
Sure.
Do you get a lot of that?
Well, yeah. And I remember, being locked up in that psychiatric ward and kind of coming around, realizing, man, I really need to do something about this. And I decided, like, okay, I'm going to go to rehab. I'm going to do this whole thing. And I remember at the time thinking, like, man, I'm in a position where I could do a lot of good in the world. I'm gonna, I'm gonna make a difference. And I really my whole frame of mind was that if I learned how to live clean and sober, that I was going to be doing the world this great favor, and the world was going to owe me. And I was coming up with all of this, while on suicide watch in a psychiatric ward.
What is that? What's that like, Steve? When do they take? Describe that experience.
Okay, well, I was pretty sure that I was just gonna calmly explain that it was all a big misunderstanding when
I hear
when we got to the hospital. But they had printed out these emails that I'd been sending around to like 200 odd people, where I was basically promising to dive out of my 3-story window and onto the concrete and to see how many bones I broke. And I was basically threatening to kill myself in pretty direct language. So I got there and I found out that I wasn't going to talk my way out of it. And I got really belligerent. I said, started screaming. I went to pick up a chair and throw it. And all these security guys sort of appeared out of nowhere. And they slammed me down on this bed. And then somebody jammed a needle into my butt cheek. And then I took a nap.
Like instantly?
Right. Yeah,
instantly.
And I'm a gnarly drug addict, man. Whatever. I don't know what was in there, but then when I woke up, I was introduced to the part of the hospital where the doors don't open at all, and what's also funny too is that they had two wings of the psychiatric ward. One wing for like the standard issue, harmful to yourself or others type person.
Sure.
And then there's the other wing, which was for the something else award, for the roll around in your own poo type of dude.
Right.
And I was on the something else award for a while.
Wow.
Yeah, it was something,
So you get the epiphany. I mean, for my brother, he had a point where there were a couple times it just didn't take. I mean, we were seeing
Sure.
TMZ stuff of you openly out on the street with drugs and
you bet.
Smoking.
Constantly.
I had
we're
no problem understanding that I was an alcoholic drug addict. It was just doing anything about it that I had the problem with. But yeah, I remember these guys came into the psych ward and they kind of talked about, the whole sobriety thing, and they somehow got through to me, and I decided I'm going to go to rehab. And so then at that point, I made my decision I was going to do it, and I went over to the little what do you call it? There's like a reception desk,
right?
With the nurse,
Nurse Ratchet.
Yeah, and so I went over there and I told her something that she had heard before. I said, "You can let me out now."
I'm good.
Right, well, and then I went to rehab and whatever. It's like went to rehab. I did the whole deal. And
did you go one of those awesome rehabs like the Malibu?
Not really, but no, I didn't at all. But I went there and I told the guy in charge. I said, however long you recommend that I stay in this rehab, I want to stay significantly longer, because I knew that the odds aren't really in the favor of the alcoholic drug addict. So
you did a sober house stint.
Right,
You did like 2 years.
I was in. Yeah, wow, your research is pretty incredible, man. I stayed in a halfway house until I had 2 years of sobriety. Yeah.
I mean, you volunteered for that.
Right,
that showed your level of commitment.
I didn't have to do that at all, but it was convenient for me because I had been evicted, and so I didn't have a place to live anyway, and it was easier to just stay put.
Right.
But yeah, and I think that's really like what helped me so much.
Hey,
I was going to the set of Jackass 3D, like waking up with my little roommate and like making sure I like scrubbed the toilet first, like,
Wow.
hey, I'm gonna have to pee in the plastic cup before I go, like let's go get a porta potty full of poo.
But it worked. It worked.
So far so good.
A psych nurse texted in and said that stuff that they shot you with, they call that brake fluid.
Brake fluid. Cool. Is it
Great name.
I think it's Thorazine or something. I don't know.
Steve,
Brake fluid. I like that.
I've been watching you and the rest of the Jackass crew for like 15 or 16 years now, and it occurs to me at some point that it didn't seem like you guys were ever afraid of death, and I want to know if sobriety has changed your opinion on that.
Afraid of death. I mean, I don't know. My opinion is that being dead has to be easy, or we're all screwed.
If you got to work through that,
death is pretty easy. It's suffering that bums me out.
Soldiering on.
I don't want to get like too deep or philosophical, but I always had like kind of a crazy mortality complex. And I think from a really young age, it just bothered me a lot that, wait a second, hold on here. We have one instinct, which is to survive, and one guarantee, we won't. Like what this life of ours is a sham. It's God must hate us.
You get born dying.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I always kind of felt like people have, problems. Most people don't enjoy their marriages or their jobs and this and that. And, we're all going to die, and it's kind of a jam that we're in. So I made it my mission in life to be what I call a distraction therapist and do outrageous, ridiculous things to get people's mind off of our crappy situation.
Well, let's take it back.
It's what we're all doing here, man.
Absolutely.
That's why I'm such an outrageous idiot. That's why I'm not going to waste anybody's time at Club Helium this weekend.
No. You went to the clown college. You're the only person I've ever met who went to Ringling.
That's right, Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Clown College. It was statistically harder to get into than Harvard.
Wow.
Right.
So it's closed now, right? They don't have it anymore.
Yeah, they closed. I was in the last class.
Is this Sarasota?
Sarasota, yep. And they shut it down right after I graduated.
What was the audition process?
Was that coincidence?
What was the audition process?
Yeah.
Well, I hitchhiked from Albuquerque, New Mexico to Denver, Colorado to audition. We showed up, there were like 60 people in this auditorium like kind of gymnasium style room at the Denver Center for the Performing Arts. And there were these clowns running it. They said, hey, don't worry about us. We're not important. But the camera we're holding is the eyes and ears of someone who's very important. So let's not waste that person's time. You're all going to line up against the wall. And then one by one, you jump in front of the camera. You say what your name is and why you want to be a clown. And I remember all these schmucks, like, I was just sitting there, and they're like, just sort of waltzing in front of the camera, saying they wanted to have a big pair of shoes or whatever.
Right,
and I'm just like,
Emma Kelly.
Right, and then I jumped in front. I said, my name's Steve Glover. I'm an aspiring stuntman from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I just hitchhiked all the way from Albuquerque to Denver because I don't want to spend the rest of my life wondering if I would have blown out and missed out on the biggest opportunity ever. And I did a perfect backflip, and then I jumped out. And from that point on, there were like all these little exercises. Like there's an imaginary line down the middle of your body. Like the right half is a lazy cow grazing in a field. The other half is a wild baboon throwing a temper tantrum. Now go. And then they're like, here's this box. Who knows what's in it? Show us. And
was the experience cool? I mean,
it was great.
Yeah. Did they actually teach you what you?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I only went to clown college. I mean, and I should say, auditioned because I wanted to further my goal of becoming a stuntman.
Yeah.
And I figured that if I was a graduate of Ringling, a trained circus professional, that I'd be taken more seriously. So I went to clown college seeking legitimacy, which is great. And when I was going to clown college, my cousin was going to mortician school, and our mothers were intensely debating whose son was a bigger loser.
Yeah, wow.
Steve, you know what? Actually, we did meet somebody who graduated from clown college one time. That was Bello, who ended up going on to be a really famous clown with Ringling Brothers.
Okay,
yeah.
Bello. All right.
Got the giant.
Bill Irwin graduated from clown college, and Penn from Penn and Teller, I think.
Yeah.
Penn Jillette went there. I didn't know that. Wow. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah, and so you tried going down the stuntman route, and
right, and I mean. Yeah, I grew up on a skateboard, and I just wasn't that good at skateboarding, and so I wanted, to just be like a gnarly guy.
Yeah.
Well, and when I was even thinking about being a stuntman, like anonymity has never been a goal for me. I wanted to be like a crazy maniac, sort of Evel Knievel type.
Isn't there a stuntman school in Hollywood? Isn't there a stuntman school?
I made some phone calls and looked into it. They're not really looking to bring people in.
They want to take your money. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I guess I don't know, but
So you were doing that. You do your stuff. You go to the clown college. You make some videos and you send them off to what's his name? Tremaine.
Yeah, Jeff Tremaine.
Jeff Tremaine.
And I was doing that already. Jeff Tremaine was running this magazine called Big Brother, which was it got bought out by Larry Flint because it was just so filthy and naughty.
Right.
And so Larry Flint was publishing some 29 porno magazines and then this one skateboard magazine for little kids. And
that's great.
It was my favorite magazine in the world. And they came through Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I caught up with them at the skate park, and I told them, I don't care if you guys like me, but you're going to publish an article about me, and that's all there is to it, because I'm going to do this gnarly stunt. And I wound up that night lighting all my hair on my head on fire and dousing my arm with rubbing alcohol and doing using my head as a fire breathing torch for this pro skateboarder who spit this out. He blew a fireball point blank into my face.
Oh my God!
And I stuck my arm into it, so my arm was on fire, and then I did a standing simultaneous fire breathing backflip with my whole head on fire.
Oh my God!
And it was a complete disaster. I burned the skin off of half my face, and I got my article. and I was in the hospital all night. And for the next 2 weeks, I had to like peel my pillow off my face because all the pus was coming out of my.
Burns are the most painful.
Oh, they're the worst. And I had that was my situation. I'm peeling off my pillow off my face, and then I got the call from clown college. Hey, you got accepted. I'm like, oh man, I healed up just in the nick of time.
Yeah, well, the pancake makeup would cover.
It was all going on simultaneously. I had I worked in the circus, and the first thing my first day filming Jackass was my last day working in the circus.
That's wild because we think of and it's an interesting thing, and I think this will eventually I will guarantee at some point there'll just be a movie about how all you guys came together, because you had Bam here, you had Knoxville doing his thing, and you had all these people who were accruing this particular skill set.
Yeah, around the same time.
Initially we thought, oh, these guys are all friends. No, there were a whole bunch of people.
Oh yeah, we were like kind of an all-star team,
right?
You know.
Who was the first one you met?
The first one I met would have been Knoxville. Okay. I remember I was working as a circus clown on cruise ships, and I knew that I was going to be fired.
How did you know?
Well, because my boss clown, he you know, like I worked in a troupe of like 4 clowns, and these people, I didn't respect their talent. I mean, they're like, I didn't think that they were like funny. I didn't think that they had skills, you know, and I just didn't care about them. And I had my own skill set that just worked, you know. So I was sort of like just wanted to just screw these people. I just wanted to do my own thing,
right?
And so they would be trying to like pitch me their stupid ideas, and I'd be like practicing my juggling with my headphones on, just paying no attention to them.
Right, yeah.
And so they pulled a clown mutiny. They said if Steve-O comes back, we all quit. And the brass of the cruise line said, you know, all right. So my boss clown said, hey, dude, call up your skateboard buddies because you're not getting another contract. And thank God, because if I had my contract renewed, I would have been floating in the middle of the damn ocean juggling oranges instead of filming the pilot for Jackass.
Dude, that's clown mutiny on the Bounty.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I walked off the cruise ship with like $9,000 saved, which was a big deal for me. I bought myself a used car for $4,000, and I spent the whole rest of the money flying myself out to California to go do stunts for Tremaine. And all I was looking for was to try to get another cover of Big Brother magazine and some footage in the videos. Yeah. And I called up Tremaine. I said, dude, year 2000's coming up, and you know, I want to, you know, really bring in the new millennium with a crazy stunt. So I'm going to be walking on stilts. I'll be 10 feet tall. I'll have my entire stilt costume on fire. I'm going to have a unicyclist riding a unicycle through my flaming stilts, and I'll be blowing a huge fireball out of my mouth while my buddy jumps the skateboard off the roof of a house over my head through the fireball. And Jesus I think that'll look cool for a Big Brother cover. Yeah. And so I bought the stilts, the whole deal. I flew myself out. It was December 30th of 1999. Jeez. And Jeff Tremaine waited until I got out there, and he said, hey, man, this isn't for Big Brother. We're making a pilot for MTV. Oh. And so by going to such great lengths to do that and pull it together, like that sort of, you know, or like solidified my spot on Jackass. And again, if I hadn't gotten fired by those douchebag clowns, then I would have missed that whole thing. You know?
Wow, man. Let me ask you, pissed off clowns gave you a career.
Right. I mean, I'm pretty sure I would have found my way either way. But yeah, it was great, man. And then I came back from doing that. That was when I met Knoxville. Was you know, the last 2 days of the 90s. And then I came back and I got a job in a flea market circus. And
flea market circus.
Yeah, they had 3 elephants, and you know, like and one of the first things I filmed for Jackass was climbing up a ladder and doing like different flips into this big kiddie pool full of elephant poo, and all the elephant poo came from the circus.
Wow.
So how does Knoxville become the kind of the leader of the whole crew? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's sort of unspoken.
He was positioned out of the gate. He was positioned as the lead dude.
I mean, he's just genuinely that gnarly, I would say. You know, I mean, Knoxville's life, I think you could say that it's like that Bad Company song "Shooting Star." Yeah. If you just switch the word guitar with the video camera, because he grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee. You know, he graduated high school, and as soon as he graduated high school, you know, he told his mom, "Hey, Mom, I'm going out to L.A. I'm going to be a big star." And he went out there and kind of floundered a little bit, and then, you know, I was approaching turning 30, and he's like, man, it's time for me to make something happen. He was kind of sick. He'd done some TV commercials, but he really wanted to make his mark, and he got sort of sick and tired of waiting to be discovered. And you know, I liken his mentality to, I'm not gonna, like, waiting to be discovered at an audition or something is sort of like, you know, getting a lottery ticket. He says, you know, if I'm gonna try and get $1 million, rather than wait to win the lottery, I'm just gonna throw myself in front of a bus and sue the city.
Do it that way.
He forced himself on the map, and the way that he did it was, he came up with the idea to do a product review for self-defense equipment. He pitched this to all the late night talk shows, Howard Stern, every media outlet.
Everybody, yeah.
He was willing to just write an article. He said that he was going to mace himself with red pepper spray, tase himself, stun gun himself, and then put on a bulletproof vest and shoot himself with a Smith & Wesson 38.
Jesus.
And he said to all these media outlets, he says, all he wanted was for them to provide the bulletproof vest. Everybody in the world turned him down.
Sure, yeah.
Except for one media outlet, which was Big Brother magazine, run by Jeff Tremaine, who said, I've got your bulletproof vest, but other than that, I'm not going to have anything to do with this. You do it on your own, but make sure you videotape it. And that was how he met Big Brother and Jeff Tremaine.
Wow.
And then from there, it just became... And then we were making skateboard videos. So Jeff Tremaine reached out to Spike Jonze and he said, "Hey man, I got this crazy guy, and everybody loves our videos that we're making, but nobody really cares about the skateboarding. So I think if we take out the stupid skateboarding, then what's left over could make a great TV show."
Well,
and then you took out the skating. It was me and Knoxville and Wee Man. And
a lot of these stunts used to be included on skateboard as extras on skateboard videos. Of the collective of the Wee Man and the Chris Podges and all those guys, who would you say, if you were to ask all of them, would they point to when the question was asked, who's the craziest?
Well, I think that we're kind of like superheroes, where each one of us has our own little specialty,
And
I mean, not to say we're superheroes, but Knoxville. It just feels unaccountable around bulls. I feel completely unaccountable for anything I do around sharks.
Yes, you swam with great whites for
I've swam
Wild
with just
Boys.
About every shark in the ocean.
Yo, I love Wild Boys, by the way.
Well,
I thought
thanks,
great
man.
show.
That was it was quite the era.
Yeah. But you and Pontius had a really great chemistry together,
right?
And for some reason just love to be.
Oh yeah, and I
more
love
than
Pontius.
half naked.
But then again, to answer the question, I think that Knoxville might be the craziest for sure, and I would qualify that by saying that he goes in with no skill in his corner. A lot of us grew up on skateboards,
right?
We have our own little sort of strengths, and we go into it with kind of a skill set that helps us. And Knoxville's thing is that he has no skill set at all, like on a skateboard or whatever.
You have training at least.
I've got all kinds of training, yeah.
What was the most favorite stunt you've ever seen? It either could be you or anybody in the cast that you've ever seen done. Your favorite, not the most dangerous, just
to me, I think that when Knoxville teamed up with the old lady in the early days Jackass, and he went to taxidermists, and he went to these taxidermists and he said,
"Get her mounted."
Yeah, he said, "Hey, this is my grandmother Dottie, and to be honest, she doesn't have much longer with us, and it's the family's wishes that she be stuffed and mounted, and we want to know if you could do that for us." And they looked at these people act like they kept doing it until they got a quote.
Yeah. Oh my God.
They said we don't even know if that's legal, but if it was, we're probably looking at about $50,000.
I like some of the pranks better than the stunts too. Like the golf air horn was a goofy little thing, but it made me laugh my ass off.
And I think that's what's great about it is that everything that we've done has always been comedy oriented, and it's just well rounded. We're really do a lot of different stuff.
It's not
mean.
We've never been out to make people feel bad.
You guys caught it all. Yeah, you guys got injured.
Right.
You guys got your asses kicked.
Right.
How did you decide to port some of that to the stage and to your stage act where people could see you at Helium?
For me, I think that my whole comedy is really about how all of this changed my life.
Yeah.
I really just, like I said, I have an overdeveloped concern for the opinions of others. I'm an attention whore.
Yeah.
And, I always wanted to slay a ton of meat socket. Right? So,
Sure.
I never stapled my balls to my leg for the joy of it. I'm not doing all, I did it because I wanted to get, a ton of chicks. Free money and naked chicks is the goal.
Yep.
And, and so all of just the way that overnight, now all of a sudden, sudden, like you're just mowing down beef like crazy, I mean, people want to hear about how that goes down, and and the whole like, crazy like sex, drugs, and rock and roll of it all is, my experience with it, and now. What's happening with me is that I realized at a certain point, or I became concerned, I should say.
Yeah.
I wonder if this lifestyle I've been living for all these years, if now I'm at a point where I can't be faithful to one woman, and and I decided I want that.
Yeah, you want it now.
I want that now. I don't even feel like I could be capable. So like I decided, all right, I'm gonna try this out. Every trip I go on my tour, I'm not gonna fool around with anybody. I promise myself.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. And like it just never worked out. Something always popped up that made it hard. So like check this out, man. I'm in Toronto, right? I'm just minding my own business in the titty bar.
Expecting that there's not going to be any women there.
Right. Yeah. So this little 19-year-old stripper dancer, she comes running over with huge, beautiful boobs and this perfect little rump. She turns around and sticks her butt in my face.
Yeah.
She's got my autograph tattooed on her butt cheek. Oh, right? Man. And I'm telling you, dude, it's not easy to turn down a piece of ass with your name on it. But, and I'm joking around, but it's totally true.
Yeah.
And, and it's just like being, me trying to sort of curtail that because I'm like, I want to be able to have a girlfriend and be able to tell her because, it's, you go around, travel around for years, and you're always just hooking up with different girls, and they say like, "Oh, I bet you do this all the time." That's what they always say.
Right.
I bet you hook up with girls like this all the time, and then you look at them and go, "No," and you're just lying, and you feel like a scumbag, and like I decided,
I don't do this.
I want to be able to tell a girl like, no, actually, no, I don't do that. And it just became a comedy of errors for me trying to not do that. And so I wound up going to see this like sex therapist dude,
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
For sure, man. I was
what
like,
was
dude,
that like?
Well, I went in there and this guy tells me like, I'm still going to see this guy because like I'm all like pretty serious about this. And at first he was like, okay, well, here, let's try this. You go on your trip, do your show, go back to your hotel, and you call me up, and just call me from your hotel room by yourself and check in with me. We'll get you through it.
Yeah.
So I go, and I do my show in Mississippi. I go to my room, I call him up, and I'm like, hey, man, I made it back to my room safe. Like, thank you for everything, man. I really feel good. And then I hung up the phone and left. And I couldn't do it.
You didn't do it.
And so then, this whole thing goes on and on and on. But he wound up.
Is he like your like the same way you'd have a sponsor? He's your sponsor.
He's a therapist.
Okay.
But yeah, and I don't even know what kind of detail I want to go into this on the radio. I go buck wild at the show.
All right. Well, leave some of it for the stage because that's wild.
I want to ask about, was her name Elizabetta Cornelis?
Elizabetta, yeah.
All right, this was George Clooney's ex-girlfriend.
Right. And she's the sweetest girl ever, yeah.
Now you're dating her, and I'm like, no way.
Right.
How did that end up happening?
I don't know. I think that she you jerk, because I'm awesome.
Because he's awesome. What do you mean, how did it happen?
I love it. You didn't think about that. No, how'd you meet her?
Wait a second. This guy's being a jerk.
No, I was. I didn't mean to be.
Don't even worry about it. I'm just kidding. She saw me. She saw me in I guess supposed Jackass, and developed something of a crush, and we wound up. We wound up, being introduced by a mutual friend, and we went on a few dates.
Are you still this way? Are you still a sex addict? Or
I've been. You guys aren't even going to believe this.
No, we're going to believe it.
But I actually have been really working on this hard, and
are you lying to me right now?
No, I'm not, man.
Okay.
I'm not. I've done the whole celibacy thing.
Okay.
Like meaning, like I haven't. Elvis has not left the building for 9 months and 2 days.
Yeah.
Today.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's like I think 275 days, no nutting.
You have a goal? Do you have a goal? Do you have like a year-long
Yeah, I'm
goal?
going for like a year, man.
Okay.
Not
because-
even this?
Right, not even that.
Oh my God, you're going to blow somebody apart, dude.
Right, I know. And that's the thing,
Pupils
man.
are white.
Right, like, and that's just what I'm doing, man. I do have an eye on a year because when it's time for me to be with the special woman who I want to, be with, she deserves to know I could go for a year without giving in to temptation, so she knows she can trust me.
I'll tell you something though. If you stop and think about it, you have an addictive personality.
Sure.
And it's like I have a regimen. If I don't do one thing, like if I don't do my exercises for the day or whatever, everything else falls to crap.
Sure.
So this.
I was gonna say too, when it's time for me to be with that special woman,
Yeah.
she better wear a poncho.
And a
It's
scuba
been a
mask.
one-man bukkake gangbang. She's gonna be laying there getting waterboarded.
It's pretty respectable, though. I mean, you obviously you're an addict and you changed your life, but you really changed
Sure,
your life,
yeah.
like completely from top to bottom, 100%.
You're an animal rights
Sure, man,
activist.
big
You're
time.
Vegetarian, vegan.
Well, I started eating fish again.
Okay. A pescatarian.
Certain kinds of wild caught fish.
Yeah.
No farmed business. But yeah, man, I'm big into that.
Yeah,
Very cool.
and you know what? April Margera is listening right now.
Oh,
She
cool.
Sent me a text, said, please tell Steve-O we all say hi.
Well,
He's
I
so
love
great.
it.
Yeah,
Tell
nicest
him to
guy
come to
ever.
my show.
Yeah, go to a show.
Oh, you know what I
April.
wanted to say too is that I have a bunch of friends coming to Friday night, tomorrow night, the early show, and it's just gonna be that's gonna be a dope. But they're all gonna be good. But
Well, tickets are probably gonna sell fast, so
Although we
make sure
go-
you
I'm
get
sure,
them now. Yeah.
It's and the thing is that there's so much I just can't even try to say on the radio.
I see
you
you
gotta go to the
struggling.
show.
I am a shameless son of a bitch, and this show is not a waste of time, man. Like,
Well, there's one tonight. There's a couple on Friday, a couple on Saturday, so you can get the full deal from Steve-O live, and the tickets
Oh,
are
you
available.
bet.
Heliumcomedy.com. You want to get them now. Listen, before we wrap up and stuff, can we see your back tattoo?
You bet.
Yes.
I would love to see
I love
that.
this.
If you've never seen Steve-O's back, it's just outrageous.
Yeah.
Best.
And then on your upper left shoulder, is that the Henry Rollins tattoo?
that's right there.
That's right there. Henry
Yeah.
Rollins did that while they were in Baja, California, in like a dune buggy.
I love it.
And he gave him the tattoo while they're jumping over these berms and stuff.
Yeah, man. Oh, it
is
feels so
awesome.
good to be here in Philly, and thanks for that too, man. April's great. I also want to tell everybody too that after every one of my shows, without fail, I don't go anywhere. I don't do anything until I've taken a photo with every single person who wants one.
Awesome.
So I always have my own little after party at my shows, and every single ticket is as good as a backstage pass and an invite to my little party.
Awesome.
I'm really glad you're sitting here, man, because there was a stretch of time where I didn't know if we were going to see you,
thank you, man.
and
Dude,
to have
yeah,
you here in 2014.
I remember April listening to me on the Howard Stern show like less than a month before my intervention,
Oh,
and she
wow.
called up the guy saying, "Hey, I'm listening to Steve-O, and I think he's about to die."
She told us about how
Right.
concerned she was after hearing you on the show.
Oh, you were on the top of a lot of people's
I know.
Deadpool list.
I cost more people more money on their celebrity death pools.
Well, dude, we're happy for you. We're proud
Right,
of you.
well, thank you so
we're
much,
glad you're in
man.
Philadelphia.
Hey, I'm so glad to be here too, and I can't wait to meet everybody down at Club Helium. And like I said, I'm still going to do some stunts and tricks in my show. It's not all just me being hilarious. Like I'm telling you, I mean business here. I'm going to drop some jaws, dude.
and it's your first time in Philly doing
first
this.
time in Philly,
so
yeah.
Got to see it. All right.
God. Heliumcomedy.com. Get the tickets now. It's Steve-O, guys. It's
Yeah.
here for- Thanks,
Hey,
buddy.
man, thank you guys so much.
Awesome having you on. We'll take a break and we'll be right back. Stay there.